on a reasonably tight time frame. So morena and welcome to everybody who's here. Welcome to our members of the public, to our staff and particularly councillors around the table. Now I want to just start with apologies from the Mayor. Len's dad's not well, so he is with him as we speak. So I guess our thoughts are with his family on that issue.
Christine?
We've got apologies from Chris Darby for absence on council business and Councillor John Watson for absence. Any other apologies?
Chair, we must acknowledge Councillor the passing of Councillor
Yes,
Fletcher's.
no, we have acknowledgements and achievements in item 5.
Well, I'm just saying that may be apologies for Councillor Fletcher for that reason.
Okay, why don't we do that? Apologies for Councillor Fletcher, we'll add. Okay, I'll move that. Is there a seconder? Yep. Councillor Cooper? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Declarations of interest on any issues? No. Confirmation of the minutes. I'm happy to move the minutes of the 31st of March.
Happy to second.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Walker. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now we've got acknowledgements and achievements, and the Mayor has, in the usual way of this meeting, acknowledgements of people who've passed. So I will. Actually, I don't know if you'll be able to hear me if I stand. So I've got 3 acknowledgements. Alex Smith, Curtis Ho, Bill Savisi and Councillor Fletcher's mother. What we'll do is I'll read these and then we'll take a moment and stand in silence for these people. Alex Smith was synonymous with Clevedon. After migrating north from Taranaki to North Road to a new dairy farm with wife Bella, Alex set about developing the farming business with the same energy and determination he exhibited in his life. Alex's community involvement began with a local primary school where all 6 of the Smith children started their formal education. He went on to be an integral member of Federated Farmers, the Takanini Dairy Cooperative and AMP Association. Alec was elected to Manukau Council in 1983 and was extremely passionate about the work that involved. He was proud to represent his community and he was particularly interested in roading, planning and bylaws. He performed admirably and was a highly respected councillor. One of Alec's biggest passions was the next generation. He spent many hours fostering young people, whether it was hosting exchange students or putting on a barbecue after a young farmer's water ski event. Alec and Bella were always warm and welcoming, and Alec sponsored and encouraged young people from all over the district and beyond to advance themselves and experience new adventures. He gave advice and direction. At 92, Alec was Cleveland Lions' oldest member and an active fundraiser for the South Auckland Hospice, Clevedon Volunteer Fire Brigade and local sea rescue and kindergartens. The pillar of the Clevedon community, Alec was well respected and highly regarded, and he'll be missed a great deal. He's survived by 5 of his children and 9 grandchildren, and he was 96. So we'll stand and acknowledge Alec in a moment. It's always quite moving reading these when you realise what extraordinary lives some of these people have. It's amazing. Now Curtis. The sad news of the early death of former Blues player Curtis, I'm not too sure. It is Hau, yeah, just to make sure. This rocked the rugby community. Curtis was just 31 when he died after a prolonged battle with cancer. A proud father and loving husband, Curtis showed he was a promising forward while at Sacred Heart College and made his debut for Auckland in 2005 against the British and Irish Lions before playing his first match for the Blues the following year. It was a career stopped short. Curtis played 53 games for the Blues and was diagnosed in 2011 with Ewing's sarcoma in his rib, a rare and lethal form of bone cancer. His brother Leon says stopping playing rugby was really hard for Curtis because it was such a big part of his life, but he always put his family needs first. He was a humble, respectful and a man of integrity. Curtis is survived by his wife Frida, and his much adored daughters, Alia and Sienna. And Alia's 8 and Sienna is 6. The next acknowledgement is for the wonderful Bill Savisi, and all of us would know of Bill and have mourned his passing. Bill was born in Tonga and wrote more than 200 songs over his 6-decade-long career. That was Bill who helped popularise the Hawaiian style of music in New Zealand and Pacific Islands, and he did it with a ukulele, a bright Hawaiian shirt and a spectacular smile. The New Zealand Hall of Fame includes Bill, and when he received that honour, he said, "Now I'm 92 years old, the legs are getting weak, the eyes are getting dim, but I've still got my mind to put me in an ocean of music." Len has written quite a personal tribute to Bill, so these are Len's words. "My tribute today is just one of the many in the wake of Bill's death, and just a few days ago at his Mount Albert home. He made such a huge contribution to the city, mainly through his music, but also through his love of family and community. For 15 years, his bands took to the stage at the famous Orange Ballroom in Newton. It was a grand old venue where romance was born and lifetime relationships were made. Bill was a mentor to many talented musicians and will be remembered for many things, but I think it was his effort and success in getting the ukulele into classrooms that will be his lasting legacy. It's because a generation of youngsters got to experience something unique and special, and many generations still to come will as well. He dreamed that every child in New Zealand would play the ukulele, and by many accounts many do as a result of that wish. The Band in Heaven, which now has some exceedingly famous members, will have a marvellous addition by way of Bill and his ukulele, and he'll be one of the sweetest sounds. Now, we also, as Councillor Cooper mentioned, need to acknowledge Councillor Christine Fletcher's mother. Councillor Fletcher, welcome. It was with great respect that we note the passing of your mum. And the tributes, I don't have anything formally written, but the tributes that have been made in her honour say that she died a gracious and warm and loved woman, and we acknowledge your role and the difficult time that you've had in these weeks leading up to her death. So I'd like us to stand and acknowledge these people who've passed. Thank you all. Now, we have no petitions, but we did have a request for public input, and we have Penny Bright here. Penny, the Mayor has declined the request for public input, and we've read your emails. What I'm going to suggest, and councillors, if you agree to this, because the request has been denied, that is how it is, I'm going to suggest that we deal with public input at the end of what will be a very short meeting, and then I will close the meeting. And for those of us who are interested and happy to hear what Penny has to say, I think we're quite interested in the whole issue of the signage bylaws. We can do that in our own capacity, and I hope that meets favour with you. Councillor Casey.
What was the reason that was turned down?
That was emailed out to us. It was a reasonably long email. I'm sorry.
The brief version of it?
The brief version was that the bylaw has already been enacted and there were opportunities to participate in that. B, that Auckland Transport has the right to make those bylaws, and C, that there's nothing that this organisation can do about it in the interim or prior to the election, and that it may be best dealt with post-election. That's my understanding, Mr. Chief Executive, is that those are the reasons the Mayor gave. But I think if there's an informal process to deal with that at the end, that would be...
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councillor Quacks.
A change of precedent in business is a procedural matter. It needs to be put to the vote in order to change that.
No, I'm not doing that, Councillor Quacks. No, what I'm doing, sorry, I'll just explain it again. We will simply deal with the meeting as it stands, and then we'll close the meeting, and people are then free to, I'm going to invite Ms. Bright to address us, and then we'll carry on with our workshop after that. So no precedence of business is required because we're not dealing with it within the formal body of the meeting.
And we do have a long workshop.
And we have a very long workshop ahead of us.
But just on that, Deputy Mayor, I'm happy with that, but what I do want, my request for speaking rights.
Point of order, Madam
Point
Chair.
of order.
Point of order.
Councillors.
You've turned that down. You've
That's
turned the
fine.
lady
I
down.
think that's absolutely fine. Councillors, you know, every now and again,
Well-
we are in a democracy and I think we just need to make it so. So let's
That's
move
not
on
it.
to local board input. There is none. Extraordinary business, there was none
Madam Chair,
advised.
I find the reason for declining the public input in this case unconvincing. The question of Auckland Transport being involved in election signs is controversial. It's not really transport related, and I think it's worthwhile hearing a viewpoint, another viewpoint perhaps,
A point
on
of
this
order, Madam
matter.
Chair. Point of order.
And
Point
we've
of
already
order.
moved on,
Oh, point of
councillor.
order.
We are now
No, I've
on.
got a point of order I want to make.
Point of order,
Well, the
councillor.
point of order is that once a decision is made by the chair that as to whether a
agreeing
public
with you,
input would
councillor.
occur or not,
Yep,
that's the end of the
indeed.
matter. So councillors shouldn't
Yes.
trifle with the chair and start addressing the issue.
Thank you, councillor, which is why we're
not
now
trifling.
on item number 10, notices of motion. There are none. Item number 11, warm welcome to Steve Armitage and Pam Ford, who are going to give us an update on the tripartite
Madam
economic
Chair.
summit in 2016. Councillor
Sorry, did I miss any
Penrose.
achievements? Did I miss something there?
You are absolutely correct. So I will just stay there for a second. We can take them as read. Did you have an achievement you wish to add?
I just
councillor?
want-
I think you did very well on that.
I just want, look, I think
Attendance.
there's some great achievements there, but I also want in particular, at a time when we're going through such growth in Auckland and under scrutiny within our building section, the Solgrim Award, and I did send a photo to you, Madam Chair, of the award itself. It's an unusual looking statue, but I just want to acknowledge the building team across the Auckland region, Madam Chair.
That is a very good catch, councillor Penrose. I think that is worthy of note, as is the fact that you have currently managed to organise for 80 dogs
Yes,
to be,
absolutely.
88 dogs to be in better control than they were before. So I think that's a very good achievement. I do apologise, councillors. I was focused on our acknowledgement of people who'd passed.
I'd just like to
Councillor
speak
Wood.
to that, and Callum knows that I've got this position on the dog issues, but, you know, it's okay to say that we're dealing with these menacing dogs, but people are being seriously maimed in dog attacks. And there is a
This
penalty
isn't
of 3 years
There's
or
nothing on the agenda
$20,000
that allows
for
this.
people who's...
There's no debate on
No,
dogs today, George.
well,
Do you want to start the debate?
I
I'll
just
be
want
the
to make
next
that
up.
point that
Councillors,
this
councillors.
council has got, if we're going to be the prosecuting authority, we have got to make every step, take every step to make sure that
Not
the
on the
maximum
agenda,
penalties
George.
are imposed when these
The agenda.
attacks take place.
Shouldn't be
Indeed.
trifling
So
with the
that's an
agenda.
issue that we
So we're
need
not-
to...
Trifling
Happy
with the
to have
business
the
of the
Wait,
debate.
meeting.
hang on, councillors, look, this is, I
I think he's trifling.
I
with the
would
chair.
like,
No, it's-
there's
I'm
nothing
serious.
like dogs to get everyone excited in the morning. So let's
was
just
making.
take a
That's
deep
what he-
breath and say,
Well, I'm just
can we
saying,
just
Georgia,
take
I'm
a
just
moment?
remembering that.
Councillor Wood,
I've just got
shush.
concerns in that area.
Just shush.
Item
We're
11.
just going to take a moment to actually acknowledge the work that councillor Penrose has done. We'll get back to dogs
Absolutely.
later.
My
Now,
apologies, I wasn't talking about this.
You started it.
you started it,
Sorry.
you finished it.
Who let the dogs out?
Who's talking about
Sir John.
We've all got open minds.
Let the dogs out.
I'd like to end on a positive note. The whitewater rafting was launched in Manukau over the weekend, last Tuesday, to a huge success. Prime Minister was there, a lot of dignitaries. And to see the kids and the people enjoying it's going to be an asset to Manukau as well as Auckland. So I'd just like to end up on a positive note.
Good on you, Sir John, thank you. Watch those medals flow.
Council project.
And on that positive note, Steve and Pam, warm welcome. So this is our chance to get updated on the tripartite economic summit.
Thank you very much. First of all, can I just acknowledge Councillor Fletcher, just on behalf of Brett and the team at AT. Apologies for your loss. Just while we're talking about accolades, also can I just thank those councillors that have acknowledged our success at the International Sport Accord Awards, where our Auckland Major Events Strategy won Best International Strategy for major events, and where Auckland was recognised in first place for medium-sized international cities for our performance delivering major events. So thank you for those that have acknowledged that. Yeah, we're here to talk about tripartite this morning, and we're really pleased with where we're tracking at this point. Most of you will be familiar that the tripartite agreement was signed last year with the inaugural summit held in Los Angeles. We're thrilled with where we've landed compared to the event that was held in LA, where around 200 delegates took part. At this point in time, before we've formally commenced our promotional campaign, we're already approaching 400 confirmed delegates. So we're thrilled with the uptake to this point, particularly from Auckland business. The private sector is very much behind the tripartite. We've secured sponsorship from 11 separate organisations, and that's at the point of 280,000 to this point. We are hopeful that there may be some more to come as well, so we're still pursuing that. Business partners from the Chamber through to the EMA and various other business organisations are very, very behind us on this. And in addition to business matching, there'll be ample opportunity for people to learn from what I think is a pretty impressive cast of international business leaders and thought leaders, especially those involved in innovation, which I think we all acknowledge is critical to Auckland's future. The tripartite also presents a great opportunity to showcase Auckland to critical overseas markets, and we need to thank and acknowledge the IMSB for the role that they've played in helping us to shape up the Māori component of the program. Government is also supportive of the event, and we have a number of ministers who will be attending over the course of the 2 days, including the Prime Minister attending the summit dinner on the Monday night. And we've just learnt that Te Ururoa Flavel, the Minister of Māori Affairs, will also take part in one of the panel discussions. The tripartite will culminate in a very important Auckland Conversations session, which includes speakers from both America and China about the future of cities. And there'll also be workshops taking place throughout the course of the tripartite around waterfront development and other matters important to all three cities. Our conventions team has projected that the financial benefits to the city for hosting the summit will be around 500,000. And this is just purely based on accommodation and other expenditure that both international and domestic delegates will undertake while they're here in Auckland through that period. I'll now hand over to Pam to take you through in a bit more detail the summit program.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Steve's covered most of the points. I do have a copy of the program that you can take with you after the meeting. But thank you, Deputy Mayor and the councillors, for the opportunity to have you focused on this wonderful tripartite conference that is taking place in just over 2 weeks' time. Let me see if this works. There we go. The tripartite is a 3-year agreement signed by the cities of Los Angeles, Guangzhou and Auckland in November 2014. And it's a highly innovative extension of sister cities arrangements focused on business outcomes and generating jobs and growth amongst the 3 cities. The Auckland summit follows the Los Angeles one last year, and next year, 2017, Merrill-led delegations will be converging on Guangzhou. Last year, over 40 Auckland businesses and 50 Guangzhou businesses went to Los Angeles. The Auckland businesses identified over 300 leads, and 100% of them said that they would want to be involved again. The focus of the event, as Steve said, is all about business matching. So ATED and a bank, BNZ, will be operating a dedicated business lounge during the conference. And right now, businesses are connecting with each other on the conference online tool to set up meetings and introduce each other. The speakers that are coming to Auckland include obviously our own Auckland and New Zealand speakers, but also people from the US, China, Israel, and even Australia. The speaker lineup is represented by women, men, millennials, experienced entrepreneurs, academia, and diplomats. It's a jam-packed program with plenary sessions, workshops, and a number of breakout sessions around sectors of interest, mutual interest amongst the three cities. In addition to the close to 400 delegates already, we're at 375 this morning and growing at 25 per day. The corporate and government partnerships that we've been able to secure is very encouraging and shows they're enthusiastic for the support of business networking events of this type. The major level sponsors are BNZ, Huawei, and Callaghan Innovation. Chinese support has come through Fuhua, ICBC, China Southern, NZTE, Asian New Zealand Foundation, and from the US side, the Embassy, ACOM, and as of yesterday, Silicon Valley Bank. As Steve said, the tripartite is also an opportunity to showcase Auckland to critical overseas markets. And working with Independent Māori Statutory Board, we're very pleased about the opportunity to showcase Auckland's unique Māori identity. Visually, designs by Johnson Fitahera will welcome and make a statement at the venue. The pulpity and opening sessions of the summit will make it very clear where our visitors are in the world. The opening session will be an address by Sir Peter Sharples, Paul Majuri, and Wayne Mulligan, and it seems the Minister of Māori Affairs will also be attending. Māori speakers and stories feature throughout the program, and particularly at the summit dinner on Monday night, the 16th of May. Prime Minister will speak at the dinner, and Minister Joyce will address on Tuesday morning. So the event is about facilitating business and growing opportunities for Aucklanders to trade successfully internationally so that they can contribute to growing jobs and prosperity for all Aucklanders. We know that you'll enjoy this rare opportunity as you're invited to host tables at the dinner, participate over the 2 days, and yourself make new connections with our various business and political visitors. It's our chance to be great Auckland hosts to our visitors and constituents alike. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thanks, Steve. Questions? Councillor Crum.
Thanks for the presentation, and as a councillor alongside Councillor Cashmore, who attended the summit last year, this is definitely, I can concur, a step up, more than a step up. It's 10 steps up from what we experienced last year, although last year was incredibly worthwhile and a very valuable experience for the 46 businesses that went from New Zealand to LA. Just a couple of questions from me. The themes for the summit, we can't hit everything and we can't invite everyone. So just refresh for us here what the themes are. We're down to program level, and
Sure.
You've probably moved on a bit from themes, but that very much underpins who's been invited and how business matching will occur. So just refresh for us, Pam, what the themes are and any other details that you can give on how that's
Sure.
materialising for that, you know, that pinpointed matchmaking that we need.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Crum. The three cities agreed on sectors of mutual interest, and those sectors are urban design and development, high-value foods and nutrition, media and entertainment, which also includes virtual reality and augmented reality, advanced materials, and animation, which is part of the entertainment. Those were the sectors, and then the overarching themes are around innovation and international connections. And what we've done around inviting Auckland businesses is focus in on those sectors, but also the broader community through the tertiaries and the industry organisations like the EMA, the Chambers, the New Zealand China Trade Association, AmCham, and the like.
Just supplementary. So During the summit, you've got business matching, and it's specific and it's programmed. What is ATEED's experience in what else you do concurrently? So you have people coming from overseas, some of them investors, some of them looking for specific connections into Auckland. What is ATEED's role? What are you doing concurrently with the summit?
I'm glad you asked that question, Councillor Crum, because there's a whole range of ancillary programs and itineraries being prepared for a number of the visitors. So you mentioned investors. There's investors from the US coming down. A guy, Bob Perel, who's from a company, Shamrock Investments, Silicon Valley Bank, who's bringing the co-founder of Muckalab, which is the second most successful accelerator in the US. Those sorts of people, we're creating programs for them to meet not only people at the summit, but also to have meetings around the days, the weekend before and on the Wednesday. A number of the speakers are also being integrated into Tech Week events. So Sunny Bates, who's from New York, she sits on the TED advisory board, on the MIT Media Lab advisory board, consults to large corporates like GE. She will be doing a series of events with Spark, with AmCham, and then also going down to Christchurch to do a couple of events. So we've identified who those key people. Similarly with the Chinese, there's a number of MOUs being signed, and so those will involve ancillary programs and meetings.
One more final. Can you just flesh out again for us what you think our role is as councillors during this summit? So Councillor Cashmore and I, it was very specific for us. We were on a delegation. Things are a lot more clear cut, I think, when you head off. But we're here, this is our turf, we're hosting. So paint a picture for us and how you'd see our roles during this summit.
I see the role of the councillors twofold. One, we'll be sending you out the list of all the delegates that are coming to the conference. So that's the Auckland companies and the visiting companies. So becoming familiar with maybe businesses that you work with in your local areas, or identifying people in the visiting delegations from Guangzhou and LA that you might want to meet with, and letting us know that we can create those meetings. There'll be some people that are coming down that yourself and Councillor Cashmore met last year, and you may want to re-engage with those people. So there's that part. The second part is being present during the 2 days and helping facilitating the, it's all about making connections, so connecting some of the people that you know from Auckland with some of the visitors. And the Mayor has sent out, an invitation to you to be a host at each of the tables at the dinner. And the dinner is going to be a fabulous event where it's going to be a great opportunity to engage with Auckland businesses yourself, but also enable them to make connections with international visitors. Some of the international visitors we know are here to do business. Well, we know they're all here to do business, but some of them have very specific requirements, and we know how much they need Auckland Council involvement in their process, be it around regulations, bylaws, consenting, all of those sorts of things. So I know they see value in connecting with you as they did last year in Los Angeles.
Overall, it sends a very clear statement to investors and businesses that we might want to attract down here if we've got members of the governing body fully engaged and present over the course of those 2 days. So, yeah, we certainly encourage as much attendance as possible.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crum. Other questions? Councillor Walker.
Yeah, I mean, just as far as attendance is concerned, I note that on the Monday we've got the Finance Committee meeting on the annual plan, which we obviously have to deal with, and then on Tuesday we've got a holding day for.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
I think that was
No,
going
we
to be
haven't.
cancelled.
So that's
Sorted.
That's
No,
great.
We haven't.
That's good then. So we do have some availability. So
13th.
that's great.
Fantastic.
Friday the 13th, today, Wayne.
Yeah,
All happens and finishes on that day. No holding day. Okay, other questions, councillor
Well,
Webster?
it's not a question. Well, it sort of is. Having been to Guangzhou when we actually signed this, and that was not a business delegation as such, I think this is particularly what everybody at that signing thought was going to happen. So it's really great to see that happen. I was recently hosting 1,108 delegates from China at Matakana Country Park, which was the most extraordinary thing I've ever been to, because this LA businessman had brought 1,100 of them to New Zealand for awards day, or awards visit or something, for about 10 days. And they had gone to Queenstown, Rotorua, Waitomo Caves, and Auckland, and decided to come up to Matakana. They spent $50,000 that day at the market at Matakana. And that was alone, without everything else. We worked out probably cost this gentleman about $2.5 million to bring that lot down to here. What did concern me, though, is I talked about the tripartite, and he had no idea that we had one. So how do we contact those sort of people? I mean, it's not so much food nutrition, but it's certainly healthy food, vitamin, that sort of thing.
Right.
How do we get those people in the loop? He's from LA, and it was Chinese delegates that he brought down.
Okay. Well, look, if you have his name, Councillor Webster, I'm happy to.
Steve might, because he
Yeah,
put
got his
me onto
details.
it. But,
Yep.
you know, there's opportunities there.
Yes, absolutely. And we will contact him for sure. That sounds like a great lead. Just on that point, the LA delegation arrives on Friday the 13th of May, and they are going to Matakana on Saturday.
Oh, goody gums.
And that will include going to the market, and Richard Didsbury is going to host them at Brick Bay. The following day they go to Waiheke. So that expenditure over those 2 days will, help to make this event cost neutral.
I might have to contact Richard.
Thank you, councillor Webster. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a report back after the last tripartite in LA from businesses who had made connections and actually got more contracts and maybe set up offices in LA and things like that. Is there any further update available on the kinds of opportunities that were created out of that summit, and I guess will happen here in 2 or 3 weeks?
Yes, Councillor Cooper, there are, we did evaluations at the time, which were reported on, and then we've kept in touch with those companies that went up. We call them an alumni group. So we have examples of, say, HRV, which did a deal with a Chinese company. Flux Animation did some deals in Los Angeles and is working with Disney on some new projects. Another company, Immersia, is also established itself in LA. So we're keeping in contact with those companies, and it's more anecdotal. We do have a full program to be able to evaluate the success of this event, which involves evaluation immediately afterwards through questionnaire, a 6-month follow-up, and then on the day we have people that will be collecting information and putting it into the ATED CRM around connections made or things to follow up.
Okay, and so, Madam Chair, will that include things like, if there's been extra employment? I mean, some might be commercially sensitive, but things like, how much increase in business they've received, those types of things, how it can actually, showing how it actually benefits Aucklanders?
It is often difficult to extract quantifiable data out of these companies, and so it's a matter of trying to build relationships with them, which we do through our AT business advisors, through the local boards, relationships, to get them to share what we're doing. But we have done this economic analysis through our Auckland Conventions Bureau tool that they use, and that accounts for extra spend, and we'll look at other measures.
Because, I mean, I guess spending in the moment, but the long-term economic benefits for Auckland is kind of what I'm interested in. And I'm really clear, as we heard, there were quite a few businesses that reported back to us and said, look, I've been able to, employ more people, I'm selling more stuff, you know, services, goods. And so, I mean, it's clearly happening, but it would be great to be able to say, look, hey, this much more employment, paying this much more tax, opening a bigger business, etc., so that people can see that our council's investment is really paying off.
Yes, and we'll be working very hard to extract those examples. One example is Hoo Studios, who signed an agreement last week, but they're also signing another agreement here with Guangzhou, and they have articulated how many more jobs are going to be as a result of these agreements with China.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Cashmore.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Cooper covered off one of my questions. The second one would be, the mayors of both Guangzhou and LA are attending, Pat?
At this stage, yes.
Okay, good. One of the things we learned from Los Angeles was a connectivity with the Los Angeles people was easy. With the people from Guangzhou, it was hard because of the lack of interpreters. So have we been able to solve some of those issues?
Good question, Councillor Cashmore. Yes, we're bringing down 4 translators from Guangzhou who will do simultaneous translation at the event. We've engaged the Confucius Institute at the University of Auckland, and we'll have 15 Mandarin Cantonese speakers. And those speakers will do ear-to-mouth translation in the breakout sessions, but also we'll have the Cantonese speakers in the business matching lounge. So, and people will be identified on their lanyards as to whether they can speak Mandarin or vice versa. So,
Cool.
yes,
It's really good news, Ben, because I think we lost an opportunity last time because there's so much interaction goes on in between the sessions where people say, well, I manufacture furniture and I retail furniture from Guangzhou, so and to get those people together, that's the secret. So that interpreter is going to be absolutely critical for that.
Just one other point on that, Councillor Cashmore. When people register and they list what their business is and what they're interested in, so the Chinese delegates have done that as well, and that's good background information to have before going into them.
Okay. So I presume there's some sort of colour coding to identify your like-type businesses, then yeah, perfect. That's a big step forward. So congratulations on the work, congratulations on the number of delegates, number of Auckland companies involved actually?
Yesterday it was 165, and registrations went up 25 overnight, so I guess that's climbed. You know, we're reaching for 200 Auckland businesses.
That's a great success. Well done to you both and to AT. This program is going from strength to strength, Madam Chair. Very hard to quantify the actual dollars, but when you go to the alumni that Denise and I have been to post the tripartite in LA, you actually saw the buzz that those businesses were feeling, the CEs of those businesses, and how they had grown, and you heard in-house how their businesses benefit. So strongly supportive.
Thank you, Councillor Cashmore. Yes, ask Queenstown whether contacting Amway and saying how that coming down here as a reward group was worthwhile or not. I think it's probably fairly clear. Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering, how have you gone about inviting Auckland businesses to register?
Councillor Stewart, we have started with the alumni group that went last year. We've worked with Callaghan Innovation and NZTE and the AT Business Services teams to identify the companies in the sectors of most interest. We've talked to the Chamber of Commerce and AmCham and EMA and NZCTA and other Chinese organisations to invite their members. And so we've got a list of around 800 Auckland companies that have been specifically invited. Then you've also got the sponsors, so BNZ Bank are inviting 60 of their companies, and I'm trying to think of the other sponsors, but the other sponsors as well are inviting clients as well. It's an invitation only. It's very easy to get in though. You just have to register your interest, and there is going to be publicity next week in the Herald around the summit, and that will generate even more interest, we believe.
Yeah, I was just hoping that. I'm just thinking of a company, Councillor Quacks and I visited a couple of weeks ago, Houck Limited, who is an innovation, and they, yes, back in 2011, they actually won an award, one of our...
I know them, yes, yes, they should be there.
they are somebody that should certainly be invited.
They
So I
absolutely
hope
should.
that they
Look,
have
I'll
been.
make a note and we'll have a look to see if they are there or not, and make sure
Because
they're invited.
they actually, you know, they're from Howick, and they supply in Russia, China, Singapore, you know.
50, they export to 59 countries.
Yeah, and they are just an amazing company.
Yes.
And I think
There's heaps
sometimes
outside.
we forget about those that we've actually awarded ourselves. So I would hope that they would be very high on the list. Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you, councillor Stewart. Okay, no other questions? I would like to move that we receive your report and that we thank you. Thank you, councillor Fletcher. This is excellent work. Look forward to results. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And our final formal item is item number 12, and Marguerite, Warwick.
Madam Chair and councillors, this proposes arrangements for what's termed the interregnum, the election period. It's based on the arrangements that were made for the 2013 elections. There's two key periods. You people, your term of office comes to an end the day after there is the public declaration of the election results, and the electoral officer expects to be announcing in the paper the election results on the 15th. And so the first period is the first part of October up until the 16th of October. The intention is to not hold meetings, but for there to be a delegation to any two of the mayor, deputy mayor, and a chairperson of a committee of the whole to make decisions. The second period is the period from when new members' term of office commences, which is the same date, the day after the public declaration of results, up until when new members can actually act as members after they have made their declaration. And so even though they have commenced their term of office on the 16th of October, they're not able to make decisions until they're sworn in. And the recommendation there is that the Chief Executive make decisions under the Chief Executive's current delegations.
It's pretty straightforward. It's what's happened in most councils forever. Is there a mover for the recommendations? Councillor Cashmore, happy to move. Second, Councillor Penrose. Oh, there's a question. Councillor Casey.
Yeah, I'm interested in the section on advisory panels. Is it the mayor's, is it the incoming mayor's decision as to whether we have them or not? Isn't it a decision of the governing body of Auckland Council?
My understanding around the background to that is that it relates to the responsibility that the Mayor of Auckland has for proposing processes for engaging with people, and that's part of that process, but it is usually something that you as a governing body sign off in terms of the full terms of reference and so on at the end of the day.
I thought the contract was between the governing body of Auckland Council and the people of Auckland, not between a mayor and the people of Auckland. Can you clarify that legally?
Yes. The legislation gives specific powers to the mayor to engage with the diverse communities of Auckland. It is in the legislation, and the panels is one of the mechanisms that the mayor can use.
But I guess one would hope that a collaborative mayor may well work with the council on that issue.
It doesn't have any recommendation to the
Okay. Councillor Brewer.
Well, it's a slightly wider question, but probably one to Marguerite. The election period, what is the formal election period? When does that start?
So it is 3 months. Well, you've got the deputy electoral officer in Warwick as well, but it's 3 months before election day, which is the 8th of October.
So give me the date and month. It's the 8th of...
The pre-election period is the 3 months prior to election day, so that would run from the 9th of July to the 8th of October.
9th of July. I might have got the wrong end of the stick, but I understand that councillors are not allowed to contribute their columns to Our Auckland. The next one due on Monday is the last one. And so given that the period is not till the 9th of July, it seems that June and July would be an opportunity to continue business as usual.
Yeah, the early advice on that, someone said one more, it's two more. So there are two more opportunities for you to have your columns, and then all columns and photographs will cease, which is in accordance.
Okay, so we've got, to clarify that, we've got the May edition and the June edition.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Which is pretty fair. Can't be using our positions for advantage. Councillor Walker.
Sure. Totally concur with all of that, but just one question about contact information. I'm assuming that the contact information, both for ward councillors and also local board chairs, continues, so that people can get in touch with us through Our Auckland or whatever.
No, we hear no. We will cease to be visible in Our Auckland after the 9th of July.
Okay, I just raise a question around that. So, I mean, if you're taking that stance as a matter of policy, why wouldn't you eradicate us from everything? It doesn't make sense to me. Obviously, we're going to be on the council's website, so people can contact us. We still have business to do. It doesn't altogether follow.
We might need to talk about that. Yeah, Councillor, I think, I don't know how other people feel. I don't think we're quite prepped to have the detailed discussion. I think we need to, and I'm going to suggest perhaps that we pick this up in a discussion with Marguerite and our Chief Executive. Whilst we need to be cautious, sensible and utterly transparent and not use our positions to advantage, there's a point at which it kind of becomes silly. So I think that discussion is warranted. So on your behalf, I suggest that we actually pick this up as a discussion between elected members and our Chief Executive and our Manager at one of our lunchtime meetings, yes. Okay, I've got Councillor Casey, and then I think we're pretty much done.
I didn't understand that we were going to be obliterated entirely from Our Auckland. Does that include the information that people use from the back page, which is quite an essential part? People are telling me that it's quite an essential part of Our Auckland. That's where it lists the local councillors' content, because we're still councillors until the next council's elected.
That's, Councillor Casey, that's what I was saying. I think we just need to talk about that. I think that feels...
That was my question.
Yep, that was exactly what Councillor Walker's question was.
Still being paid to do our job.
So I think, can we just pick that up and take a little bit of advice? I don't think we can go into that right now because we're not prepped to do that, but it's a valid point. Okay, sometimes having your name in there isn't an advantage because sometimes most of the phone calls are pretty grumpy. So, you know, I don't know if it is an electoral advantage or not. Any other questions? It's been moved.
Just Madam Chair, just around that, I mean, you and I have both been told that councillors can't have public meetings, they don't get any council support, and we had to buy our own tea and coffee and the whole deal, whereas local boards do have that ability and have a whole events team, they can have public meetings, and we were told it was because we'd be promoting ourselves, which is a bit odd given the reason we had our public meeting, which was a very concerned 200 or 300 people that turned up about some big safety issues in Te Aratu. So in terms of the not allowed to be promoting yourself, what happens with local boards? Are they allowed to go out with their banners and gazebos at every event promoting themselves? Because I do actually think there's quite a parallel there where councillors aren't allowed to do that but local boards are, and it seems a bit odd to me. So how are we going to address that?
Yeah, Councillor, I think we will get an answer, but it does seem to me that we need a good in-depth discussion about how we deal with this leading up to the election. I don't know if we can expect Warwick to do this all now, but I think we do. You raise a really, really good point. Warwick,
I can make a short comment. The policy that was presented to you people a couple of meetings ago referred to local events, and in the pre-election period it made a statement that events were going to be managed quite tightly, and so an approval process is being set up where people proposing to have events during the pre-election period will actually need some sort of sign-off, and that applies not only to regional events but also to local events. And a case in point is that we have had an approach about is the Auckland Heritage Festival. That's being held during the month of September and has quite a lot of local board involvement.
Okay. So while you're doing more work on that, can we add this into the list of topics for that get-together? I think it is quite important that we talk this through. Okay, I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. So, as we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, I'll declare the meeting closed and thank everyone for their attendance, but I will invite Ms Bright to address those of us who are...
Come on, George.